This is the Wannabe Saints podcast, where we take virtues and try to break them down so they become tangible and applicable to your life.
We aren't here to bring you advice, we're here to bring you virtue. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Rachel.
We're your hosts, and this is Wannabe Saints.
Are you praying?
Yes, we have prayer hands. I'm praying.
You're very good at having prayer hands at Mass, by the way.
Were you watching me?
Yes, so I was watching you. No, it's when I sat with you. I'm being a creeper. It's like you're far away from me. You sit in the same spot every time. She's like, where's Jordan? Oh, look at her and her prayer hands. She's still doing them? Yeah. Mm-hmm. What? Look at that. Still doing them.
Took up prayer hands.
No, I just have noticed over the 3 years of seeing you at Mass, you're just always in prayer hands. I was like, wow, you're really good at just constant state of prayer hands.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
So I started doing this, and I was like, wait, this is why she does this.
It kind of helps.
Yeah, I was like, wait, you're so much more focused, more vigilant at Mass when you have prayer hands.
Remember Jamie was reading that book, that Purgatory Revelation book that she's read?
The Bible? I knew you were going to laugh. No, I'm just kidding. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, they have this book. Janelle and Jamie, I think, both read it. All about, like this lady had, revelations about purgatory and stuff like that. And they were saying how, actually having prayer hands, it does actually help.
Yeah, because
and I have noticed
your
that
fingers are going straight to God.
Your prayers go straight up.
And so then if all your fingers are going to heaven, all the prayers go straight to heaven.
Your prayers work better.
Your prayers work better. Okay, let's be done. Welcome back to Wannabe Saints.
Hey, guys.
I'm here tonight with Jordan Anderson. Special guest. She's a special guest tonight.
You want to know why I'm a special guest tonight?
Why?
Because it's my birthday in 2 days.
Oh, yeah, true. Happy birthday, Jordan. Yeah, so our special guest tonight is Jordan. It's pretty nifty.
Me?
You've never heard her before, ever.
Never.
Nope. Not on this podcast, you haven't.
No.
That's a joke, by the way. It's the same Jordan that's always on.
We're here tonight?
Oh, are we?
Not actually, because it seems like we haven't been here for 30 minutes.
We're here in your car, in your AirPods, in your wireless headphones, in your
or if
boom
you're
box.
Like me, a wired headphone.
Because she's old. And
I'm just cheap. I don't update things.
in your cassette tape, in your record
tape and record players,
in your floppy disk. We come everywhere that you are and where you can find us to listen. If you find us on a floppy disk, that's pretty cool.
I mean, somebody must have made one of us.
Yep. So coming to speakers near you, here we are. Tonight's episode is on
Vigilance.
I made her say it because I accidentally keep saying the word vigilance, which is not a word. And it's really dumb, and so if I say vigilance, Jordan corrected me, because I don't know why I keep saying that.
Will do.
Okay, so question of the night. You've never heard it before. What are you working on?
I was trying to think about it, and I'm just a continuation of both of our things from last week. I did good this past week. Pretty good. Yeah. I did pretty good.
Working on your prayer life and
eating healthier. Other than obviously we went out for the work dinner and then my birthday, but other than that, I did good at eating healthy, and I did good at reading and praying and doing all that stuff. So I'm just continuing forward, and I guess also trying to focus on putting into action vigilance.
It's actually kind of what mine is working on vigilance after reading so much about it and trying to make self-aware of the things that people call me out on.
Yeah.
Not just deflecting it, but being is this something that I should work on or something that I should contemplate about myself to get better at?
Yeah.
Trying to recall times that people have called me out for maybe similar things, even if it's in a lighthearted way, but if it's a theme.
Mm-hmm.
Being like, okay, maybe that's something to consider.
Yeah.
That I should work on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, tonight is on vigilance. Vigilance is a lost virtue. And the reason we even had this idea was because I mentioned this last episode.
Idea.
Well, I did ask you if we could do it, but last episode I talked about how when I went to confession, the priest told me to read the Spiritual Battle of Prayer. And when I read that, it had this word vigilance in it, and it just stood out to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, what does that mean? And it came up again, actually, when we were prepping for...
forgiveness?
Yeah. It came up in forgiveness, and I was like, oh, there it is again. It's clearly the thing that God is calling me to work on. But then because I was like so intrigued by it, I started reading a bunch about it and looking up whatever I could find on it. Why is this thing sticking out, and why is God putting this clearly in my path? So, anyways, that's kind of like why we're doing this episode. But vigilance in the Catechism, it defines it as custody of the heart. If you look it up in a regular dictionary, you're going to see it's a waiting, it's a watching, it's being alert. It's watching for danger, being on guard. Which then just kind of intrigued me to like, okay, what's vigil mean? Because, the vigil mass.
It's so funny that both of our brains went to what does vigil mean?
Yeah, I was like, what's vigil? Because now I'm thinking like, okay, you have the Easter vigil and all that, and it's to keep watch or pray, which I just thought was cool to the connection of when Jesus is in the garden, and he said,
he's like,
stay up with me.
Yeah.
And then they fall asleep, and he's like, you couldn't even stay up with me for an hour? Like, you couldn't keep awake. You couldn't be alert for
you couldn't
1
be
hour.
Vigilant.
Yeah, you couldn't be vigilant.
Waiting for the attack, basically.
Mm-hmm. Which is just cool.
No, it's cool.
So you have the ideas of what we want to talk about. Not that we'll hit them in any order.
Yeah.
But if you want to just go over our bullet point thoughts.
Kind of just like hitting on having vigilance in like mind, word, and deed in your prayer life, within media consumption, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Honestly, the mind and prayer life kind of tie together in the sense of like, it all starts there. Like, you need to be vigilant in the mind to even have, I would say, a start in prayer life, or prayer life to start the vigilance in the mind.
Mm-hmm.
But the mind comes first before deed and word and whatever else. So I was listening to one thing, and this kind of just makes me think of just a good reason to do daily examinations. I was listening to a podcast or like a episode on Catholic daily reflections, and he was kind of talking about how like good seed can be sown into good soil. And in the parable that he was talking about was wheat being sown, and then there was a weed that got sown into it or kind of grew with it that looks very similar to wheat. And so it's like, it could all be in fertile soil, but this similar weed grows up at the same time. And yes, you could have good soil, and you might not know that there's even weeds growing into it until the fruits of these bad actions are playing out over time. So it's kind of like, how like the temptation, it's always disguised as something good. Mm-hmm. Is something that's okay. But until you see...
temptations are desirable.
Well, right. So until, like, the fruits are being born, you might not know that you're even growing with the weeds. And so it's kind of like, it's important to tend to your garden of, like, your soul daily and regularly to even keep that good garden, the good soil. Because even if you have good soil, the weeds can still be sown in by the devil and not even knowing it until later.
Yeah. Wow. That's super good.
Mm-hmm.
That's a beautiful visual to what it would mean to be vigilant.
Yeah.
Because...
Or it's even like, I mean, just another little visual of vigilance. It's like, just imagine this pretty garden that you're planting, and say you don't have the hidden weeds, but you see the little weeds popping up that aren't what you plant or don't look like your plants. But if you're weeding those out daily, regularly, your garden's going to stay clean.
Mm.
So whether it's one that looks disguised as what you're planting or what you're trying to grow, or it's not, you need to weed and clean it out regularly.
True. That's, where a daily examination would be massive to your growth in the spiritual life. But that makes me think of, I'm pretty sure it came from the Spiritual Survival in the Modern World, where it's talking about, I'm not countering your point at all, because I think that is exactly what we need to do. Like, I don't do a daily examination.
Me either.
I absolutely need to. But what I found interesting when reading this part in the book, it's talking, so like, to explain, I don't know who's read Screw Tape Letters. So Screw Tape Letters is a master demon, per se, teaching an apprentice demon how to tempt and take hold and manipulate and get us to fall. So this book, it's called Spiritual Survival in the Modern World. We've talked about it before. I'll link it again. But in this, it's in the first chapter, it says, and this is an actual quote from the Screw Tape Letters itself. It says, "You must bring him," so like us, "to a condition in which he can practice self-examination for an hour without discovering any of those facts about himself, which are perfectly clear to anyone who has ever lived in the same house with him or worked in the same office." End quote. I found that very thought-provoking. Because I'm like, wow, okay, so you could still do this daily examination.
And not even know.
You could still do like a big examination. And it's saying for an hour.
Yeah.
And like not be aware as to what your true fault is. And I guess that's like the connection to where I was saying what I was working on, or what I want to work on, truly, is being aware to the things people are calling me out for.
Yeah.
Being vigilant to those things.
Yeah.
Because that's where it lies, the flaws that you have. Because again, I mean, the Bible even says you have to take the plank out of your own eye before you start
picking on others or help your brother remove his
splinter.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's, okay, everyone else is seeing what your problems are and you're not.
Yeah.
Even if you are someone who's pretty aware.
Yeah.
Like, there's still things that you are missing. So it's being aware to those things that people even maybe make as a joke. But if it's a consistent joke of like, oh, well, you're so stubborn, or you're so sarcastic, or you're so this. Okay, well, that's my sense of humor. But it's like, okay, but if it's to a point where people are like
constantly commenting on how sarcastic you are,
and you like can't turn it off, then maybe that's something to then reflect upon, to be vigilant about, of like, is the devil hiding from me this thing? Yeah. This area that it actually hinders my gentleness. It hinders my kindness. It hinders the thing that the Lord is asking me to be greater at.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, this could be kind of off topic, but the difference of charismatics versus the traditionalists. The charismatics, they're like always on the spiritual high, always want just the spiritual cookies that they're getting of like the high emotion, where it's like, then the traditionalists, they think they're being so reverent and great to God, but really all they're doing is like picking on everything that isn't going right. So it's kind of like, in like a sense of judgmentalness, but also thinking that you're more, superior because you're in this more holy state per se to yourself and your own mind. But realistically, all you're doing is like judging. You're only eating up the spiritual cookies and not caring about the rest of it.
Yeah, or like, okay, yeah, no, that's a great example. Father Ripperger is who we got that from, by the way. Is he said in one of his talks, like, the problem with the charismatics is that they always want the spiritual cookie, right? They want this high. They want this like moment with God and the Holy Spirit. And the problem with the traditionalists is like, you're becoming critical of all the priests and the church and the this and the that, and you're thinking like you're greater than the church. And then you're going to mass, and then all you're doing is criticizing everything that they're doing wrong. And he goes, and now who did you grow closer to? He was like, well, you just grew closer to the demon than you did God, because all you did was criticize. You didn't even pay attention. All you were was judgmental.
Yeah.
And so it is both sides.
Yeah.
Like, both the charismatic and the traditionalists need to realize, like...
Yeah.
What?
No, I was just going to say, just within that is what I was thinking of when I was reading this chapter, because in this chapter of the survival in the modern world, what he was kind of talking about in the Screwtape Letters was that this son is living with his mother, and he is now highly, like, caring about his faith, where his mother is not so much. And so instead of, you know, caring about his mother who he's taking care of, he's caring about her lack of faith, and it's making him less compassionate towards her because he's on this, like, high of faith, but now he's just becoming arrogant in it, rather than actually becoming more holy and compassionate and charitable.
A great example is, like, maybe you're sitting at Mass and your eyes should be closed and you should have prayer hands, but maybe you're maybe you're watching people go up to receive. I mean, I know everybody's done it.
Oh,
and maybe you know someone and you're like, you shouldn't be receiving.
Yeah.
I don't know, you're living with your girlfriend, you're living with your boyfriend. Like, why are you receiving?
Yeah.
Or, I know what you did 2 nights ago.
Right.
Or, you get drunk every weekend. Why are you receiving? And my...
Or it's even just like...
I've been that person that like to say those things.
Oh, yeah. Same.
But I also have... I have been trying to be the person who's like, you know what? They clearly don't know. They don't know either one versus the other, or they don't know both. One, they either don't know that they are truly receiving their Lord and Savior. Or 2, they don't realize that they're actually in a state of mortal sin. Or 3, they don't realize either of those things. And so who are you to judge their action the night before? Does that make what they did right? Absolutely not. No. But for a mortal sin to be a mortal sin, it is you have to also be aware of what you're doing. I mean, we could look that up in the catechism if we needed to, but, like, you need to be aware of, there's 3 criterias. And so, like, we are not, like, this is where we have to stop judging and being so critical to people. It's not to say that you aren't called to bring truth to people.
I'm just going to go on another tangent on the receiver's side, which I've been there myself.
Yeah.
Of maybe you do know you're in mortal sin.
No, for sure.
But you're too ashamed to let other people see it. Or acknowledge that you actually are. So you still go up and receive because you're more afraid of everybody else's judgment than you are of God's.
Definitely.
Because I've definitely been there.
Oh, I mean, I have too.
Yeah. But I'm just putting it out there for people.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, check yourself of, like, who are you actually, like, if you do know, who are you actually fearing more? Like, people's judgment or God's, like,
that's the way
the reverence that God deserves.
And that's
of,
the
like,
way to
not
be,
receiving him.
That's the way to be vigilant on that side.
Yeah.
But I was going on the flip side.
Totally. No, so, I just thought I'd just give that out there for
I like
people
that.
to...
I'm just saying that's 2 different sides. So being vigilant on your own side of, like, are you actually aware? And what are you choosing? But the other side is if you're the person in the pew, like, judging the people, like, going up. It's you know, it's hard to watch sometimes. I mean, on Christmas. I was sitting with my sister and her family, and we were watching. We shouldn't have been watching. There was the end of the communion line, and these 2 girls were literally having a whole conversation all the way up, like walking side by side, like laughing all the way up. And it was so hard not to be like, are you joking me? You know, like, kind of like, hey, Father, don't give them communion. But at the same time, it was, Lord, they received you. And so they clearly don't realize what is going on right now.
Yeah.
Because if we knew like, even if we fully understood the presence of Jesus in the Eucharist, there's a saint, I don't remember who, that had said, like, if we knew the true presence of Jesus in the Eucharist, we'd all be crawling to receive him. Right? So, I know that I'm not even as reverent as I should be. However, watching them, it was like so hard. And so then I was like, Lord, like they don't even know. They have no idea what they're receiving and what they're doing right now. And so it was just like, okay, Lord, penetrate their heart. Let them know that you are inside of them. That you are literally, they received you and you alone.
Yeah.
Like, how sad it is that we don't make that clear to people.
Yeah.
You know? But that's where it's like, okay, you got to be vigilant rather than maybe you have the thought. The thought isn't always wrong. It's then what do you do with the thought? Yeah. So it's like, okay, make it a
the
prayer.
Person.
In the end, it's like, make it a prayer. And then, I don't know.
Don't be so offended by it yourself. Like, pray for them rather than being mad about their offense that they're giving God, because now you're just offending him also.
Yeah, it is. I mean, even just connecting it back to the forgiveness episode, in the way that the Lord can take your hurt and turn it into compassion. It's like, if your heart hurts for Jesus, let that turn into compassion for that person. Yep. Become compassionate rather than critical.
Yeah.
So, which part of being vigilant is being aware of the vice and trying to correct it with the virtue. Mm-hmm. Or not it's the way to become a saint. It's the way to grow closer to Jesus is by choosing the virtue. Mm-hmm. Rather than your vice.
Yeah.
There's a part in the catechism that I wanted to read based off of what we've been talking about.
Yeah, go for it.
So this idea behind being a vigilant person and like being aware of your thoughts and your actions, it's all throughout the Bible. Being awake and alert of the Lord. And it's like, okay, why vigilance? Why are we talking about vigilance? We're talking about vigilance because we don't know when the Lord is coming. We have no idea. And we so easily just kind of brush that off it's not going to be in my lifetime, or it might be, but it's not going to be tomorrow. I've seen worse in the world. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we totally brush it off as if it's not gonna happen, and we don't take it as serious as I think we should. And I think that's where it has become like a forgotten virtue. And actually,
I was just gonna say, I think likewise, we actually don't know when we're gonna die either. Like,
True.
You're not guaranteed tomorrow. You can die in an accident on your way home listening to this from work. So just live your life vigilantly.
Preparing for the coming of the Lord. I mean, that's what Christmas and Advent, that's what Advent's about, right? We're preparing for the coming of the Lord, not just as baby Jesus, but as for his second coming. And if he came tomorrow, are you ready for that? If I honestly answered that question, I don't think I would be quite ready. I wish that my answer was yes, but my answer is no. There's too many things that I know that I need to get in order, to feel like that I can confidently be like, yeah.
Who is it? I think it was, I could totally be wrong, but I think it was St. Charles Borromeo. He was doing some activity with his brothers, and they were like, you're a great teacher, so like, what would you do if you knew Jesus was going to come right now? Mm-hmm. And he said nothing. I would keep doing what I'm doing because he was so well prepared.
I wish that was me.
But I always, okay, this is just something silly that I sometimes question, which I'm like, it's just always a constant battle of like growth and where I could do better. And, sometimes I wish I could see the state of my soul. How holy am I? Or how wretched am I completely? In what areas do I actually need to grow in? Kind of like what we're talking about. You could do this examination and for an hour, but you're not even seeing the things that actually need to be worked on. So I feel like that's something that's been on my mind a lot lately too.
And one of the scariest things you could do is ask the people that are closest to you what you should work on.
Yeah, true.
I've done that one time, like 5 years ago, and I was so scared to get my answers back.
Who did you ask?
I asked my mom. I asked Becca. I asked Chris. I asked Daniel. And I think my dad.
Yeah, that is scary.
It was very scary. They were all so compassionate about it, though, that it was actually way less scary. Because they weren't like, Well, let me tell you, like, what
well,
you...
I kind of feel like if you genuinely ask the right people, they aren't going to sit there and, like,
no, they're not gonna
hammer you.
Yeah, no, seriously, they're super compassionate.
Yeah.
And it was relatively easy to hear.
Yeah.
And then it was, all right, like, I'll work on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is very scary. But, I mean, obviously, you know who you're asking, so...
Right. I think just...
if you do that, like, choose wisely.
Yeah. This is just a new tangent, like, exactly that, though. I've heard so many times, you know, when having those intentional conversations with your spouse, like, ask them, like, what ways can I love you better? What can I do more to be a better wife for you or spouse for you, whatever? And I feel like people are always so afraid to ask their spouse that because they don't want to feel attacked. But I also feel like that's such a good way to be like, but you have to listen with open ears too, especially if you're not in a good spot in your marriage. But it's like, what can I do better? I don't think your spouse would deliver it harshly either, though. Like, if you're regularly check in with each other too, but just...
I also think if you're willing to ask the question, you're going to be in a better mindset.
Mindset to receive whatever they have to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So going with this idea of why be vigilant? Why does the Lord call us to be vigilant? And this is the part of the catechism that we got the definition from. So it's 2849. It says, quote, "Such a battle and such a victory become possible only through prayer. It is by his prayer that Jesus vanquishes the tempter, both at the outset of his public mission and in the ultimate struggle of his agony. In this petition to our Heavenly Father, Christ unites us to his battle and his agony. He urges us to vigilance of heart in communion with his own. Vigilance is custody of the heart, and Jesus prayed for us to the Father. Quote, keep them in your name, end quote. The Holy Spirit constantly seeks to awaken us to keep watch. Finally, this petition takes on all its dramatic meaning in relation to the last temptation of our earthly battle. It asks for our final perseverance. Quote, lo, I am coming like a thief. Blessed is he who is awake, end quote.
I mean, how many parables does Jesus give us? Have your lamps oiled. Servants be on guard. You don't know when your master's coming home. So often does he tell us to be vigilant.
Mm-hmm.
He just might not always use the word.
Yeah, it's when he's saying, be alert, stay awake, keep watch,
be prepared.
Be ready. I'm coming like a thief. Blessed is he who is awake.
Mm-hmm.
Blessed is he who is awake. The Lord is coming like a thief. He's going to come like a thief. You're not ready for the thief. If you were ready for the thief, they couldn't take your stuff.
Right.
But the Lord is going to come like a thief. We know not the time nor the hour. We have to be ready. We have to be awake. We have to be alert. So if vigilance means custody of the heart, what does it mean to have custody of something?
Full control.
Yeah.
Ownership.
You're in control of that thing. You have ownership of that thing. You have ownership of your heart. But the tricky part is that the devil just gets in so many different ways, and we already hit on the point of how your awesome visual with like the weed growing amongst the flowers or like the beauty or whatever, right? Like there's all this goodness, and then there's this weed.
Yeah.
And we have to be able to spot those weeds.
Yeah.
But the weeds come through many different ways. It's not just your thoughts.
Yeah.
And it's actually interesting going through the catechism. It brings up how to be careful about what you consume in social media. And I thought that was really cool that it even says anything about that. But I think that tells you how prevalent that the devil is in social media.
Mm-hmm.
It's 2496, and it says, quote, the means of social communication, especially the mass media, can give rise to a certain passivity among users, making them less than vigilant consumers of what is said or shown. Users should practice moderation and discipline in their approach to the mass media. They will want to form enlightened and correct consciences the more easily to resist unwholesome influences. End quote.
Wait, repeat that last sentence.
They will want to form enlightened and correct consciences the more easily to resist unwholesome influences. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting and obviously super prevalent for what we're living in.
Yeah. I'm sure that's why they decided to add that to the catechism.
For sure. It's just cool that the catechism even has a paragraph on vigilance relating to your consumption of media. That's music, that's movies, that's TV shows, that's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. All of it. That's all of it. Sports. Your consumption of these things matters. Garbage in is garbage out. You consume garbage in the morning, garbage is coming out.
Yeah.
When you wake up in the morning and you're having a cup of coffee, what are you choosing? Your phone for something stupid like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. And maybe you're like, well, I listen to a podcast. Well, what's the podcast? Is it Bible in a Year? Or is it Second Date Update? What kind of a podcast are you listening to? Like, is it fruitful to your day? Your coffee should be with the Lord. So even if it's a simple morning offering, but it's just asking yourself, like, what am I consuming? And even then, maybe it's none of that. Maybe you do have a good routine. What kind of music do you listen to? What kind of movies are you watching? What kind of TV shows are you watching? There's a ton of swearing in your music. I don't care if you say that you like it, the beat. The lyrics go through your head.
They do. Your subconscious will absorb it.
Yeah. And I don't care if you say you fast forward through all the sex scenes of a movie or a TV show. You are still seeing that thing happen.
Right.
If you wouldn't watch that with a priest in the same room as you,
Or
why
your
are you watching?
5-year-old child.
Yeah, like,
or
why are you
10-year-old
watching
child.
it at all? I wanted to say if you wouldn't watch it with Jesus in the room with you, but like,
He is.
yeah, so but truly this mass media, this consumption of what are we consuming? We need to be vigilant about. And maybe it's none of these things and all you do is keep up with the news, but maybe keeping up with the news makes you a super negative person.
Stress, anxiety, negativity, whatever.
Yeah, then that's not for you. If you can't handle it. It's about being vigilant in what you can and cannot handle. Does it make you more negative? Does it make you sad? Does it make you depressed? Does it make you anxious? Don't watch it. Right. It's the same idea. My dad enjoys reading Private Revelation, and so Private Revelation, you can believe it or not. The church doesn't say that you have to believe it like the Bible, but my sister doesn't love Private Revelation, and in fact, it usually causes her to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or whatever. And so she was like, you know what? I can't willingly read these things. And that was her being vigilant, because all it did was cause fear. And the Lord does not call us to being fearful of what the state of the world is and what things are. We're called to have hope in Him, and to strive to be virtuous. And if it cripples you, it's not for you. Get rid of it.
Right.
So, the Lord wants peace for you. He does not want chaos and being scared and frustration and fear and whatever.
Right.
So, that's my rant on media.
No, it's great.
Any thoughts? Questions, comments, concerns?
No, I mean, I could always go on tangents of social media and whatever, but...
Well, it just sucks you in.
It could be things that you think are inspiring to you, but it's like if your child is sitting at your feet the whole time, but you think you're being inspired, like, no, it's not actually aiding to your life.
Oh, it's true. Yeah. What is your state in life? When are you choosing to pull it out, too?
Right. Exactly.
That's a really good point.
If I have this saved, I'm just going to read this little thing just because I think it's a good little nugget for parents.
Yeah, for sure.
For moms. I don't have it with me, but There's this prayer in this book, The Mother's Manual. This is just on the rant of phone stuff. But part of the prayer, it is like, so that I don't become bitter in later years because of my own neglect currently. Like something along those lines. Like, don't let me become bitter.
Like about what you did?
Yeah, because of my own neglect currently. Like in my motherhood type of a thing.
Yeah, I mean, if it's affecting your vocation, get rid of it. I don't think it's that hard. I mean, it is hard.
It is hard.
It is hard to just be like, no, because it feels relaxing. It feels like an escape. Mm-hmm. But that's the point of vice and pleasure. Mm-hmm. The devil makes it look pretty and nice, and he's like, "Ooh, come here, like look at your phone, waste your time because it's relaxing." I'm like, I know for a fact.
Unwinding.
Yeah, I'm like, I know for a fact that's not how I unwind.
No, like, I mean, it's scientifically proven that like the blue light from your phone causes more hecticness in your brain.
Yeah, there's plenty of times that I've come home and I'm like, I just need to go to bed. And when I just like actually go to bed, I knock out so quick. Mm-hmm. But then if I like go on my phone and I'm like scrolling Instagram and I get like caught up in the stupid reels, and then it's like 40 minutes go by and I had put my phone down or something, or I'm putting my phone down. I'm like, first of all, how is it 40 minutes later? Second of all, I'm more awake than I was when I got home. Like, why am I awake now? And now I can't.
You're still just as exhausted, but now you're wired.
Yeah, or my brain's racing through all these random thoughts that it now decided to have because I watched all these stupid things. Mm-hmm. It'd be vigilant of me to just not.
Right.
So it's just interesting how the devil just makes it nice and enticing. It's like, no, I just need to sit on my phone and sip on a glass of wine and take a minute. I'm so tired. But it's like, no, actually, the more relaxing thing would be to
turn off the phone, go read a book,
or be present to your kids,
sit and just play with your baby.
Yeah, and
or like listen to your kid talk about their day.
You don't have teenagers yet. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah,
it's exhausting.
I only have one kid.
No, I'm like, yeah. I don't have kids, but I'm saying like this is what they would say.
I know.
Well, back in the day, they didn't have these things. Read a book.
Yeah.
That is more relaxing than your phone.
Yeah.
Read a book. If you're going to sit amongst your kids but not talk to them.
Yeah.
Because you're still, there's definitely a difference.
There is.
It's not so consuming the way that a phone is.
No. And if you feel like you still want to make your kids feel like you're being present to them, but you just want to read a book and not do anything, read out loud.
True.
I literally did that today with Orlin. I was like, I need to like finish getting stuff done, so just like keep playing. But I'll read aloud to you, so it feels like I'm doing something with you. Mm-hmm. And so I just started reading whatever I was reading just out loud, and he just sat and continued playing.
That's amazing. That's so smart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
And then I'm also feeding him good things into his brain, even though he doesn't know it.
True.
His subconscious knows it.
Again, garbage in is garbage out.
Exactly.
What you are consuming is going in, and that's gonna come out.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. We've already talked about it before. You sit on your phone, you get more agitated.
Yeah.
You sit and read a book. Are you agitated?
No.
No.
All right. We always go on phone tangents.
I know we do because it's easy.
It is easy.
It's easy to go on a tangent about needing to be vigilant in
that area.
In that area because that's what our world is.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Moving on. What was our list?
Custody of the heart, mind, word, deed, prayer life, media consumption.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to the prayer.
Cool.
So, all right, vigilance in your prayer life. Okay, so we might do a little bit more reading in this section just because it's too good to not. Okay, so this is where the whole idea came for the episode, was from this spiritual battle of prayer. It's pretty long, so if you want to read it yourself.
It's in the Catechism, Spiritual Battle of Prayer.
2726, all the way to, that's the one that we wrote down for the thing.
Yeah.
All the way to 2751, if you want to read the whole thing. We're just going to pick parts of it for you.
27:36. So it says, "Are we convinced that we do not know how to pray as we ought? Are we asking God what is good for us? Our Father knows what we need before we ask him, but he awaits our petition because the dignity of his children lie in their freedom. We must pray then with the spirit of freedom to be able to truly know what he wants." So what I was thinking on that section is not getting what we want is because maybe what we want isn't what's good for us in the sense. But then we still need to, though, ask for what we want because it is in our dignity as our children to have the freedom to ask him for what we want. But likewise, I was tying this kind of to asking for forgiveness. He's already done the deed to forgive us, just like he takes care of the birds in the sky and the flowers of the earth. He takes care of it. They don't need to ask for it. He knows what they need, just like he knows what we need. He's also done what it takes to forgive us, but we have to go to him to ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
Figure out what is best for yourself and then ask him. Like, truly what is best. Almost being vigilant in what you know you need in that life in order to get to heaven. That's what you need to ask him for. To, like, pray properly. But
even just asking him to make you aware of what you do actually need.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but it's just kind of like, well, look at that. It's telling us that we do need to still ask him for things. Obviously, we know he takes care of it, but we could still ask. Ask and you shall receive. But when you're
also, it's about having free will.
Right.
He's not going to just give you whatever.
Right.
Because just as if
parent shouldn't go and just buy their kid everything that they see in the store. God's not just going to give us every little luxury of life because that's not what's good for us.
Yeah, sitting there and being like, no, the Lord knows that I'm hurting and that I need his love. Well, have you told him and asked him?
Right.
Because it's the same way that in a relationship even.
Right. I know I want to be loved by you.
You have to, like, also wait for this, like, receptivity.
Right.
You're right. You can't force someone to accept your love, and you can't force someone to love you.
Right.
And so it's the same way that our human relationships work is how it reflects the relationship with God. So you have to communicate the same way you would with a person.
Right.
Because even though, yes, God can read your mind, he's like, no, I love you so much that I am not forcing my love upon you.
Right.
And I'm not forcing you to love me.
Right.
I want you to choose me. Just the way that we all want someone to willingly choose us.
Yeah.
You don't want to force someone into it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I was just kind of tying that way of asking in prayer as in going to confession to actually receive forgiveness. That's just where my brain went.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
It's great. So the part that I was reading that struck me reading the Spiritual Battle of Prayer, there is this section within it called Humble Vigilance of Heart. And I pretty much loved this entire section.
You just read the whole thing.
I mean, I guess I might, and then I'll take things out if I have to. So we're starting with 27:29. And this is about facing difficulties in prayer. And I feel like this is a conversation I have with many people, just to preface this, where we struggle with silence. We're always listening to music. We listen to podcasts. We have people around us. We are watching movies, watching TV shows. Like, there's always something. Or even reading. Like, we just always are doing and not sitting. So then when we are put into a place of silence, like adoration, we struggle in our prayer. We struggle to know how to, like, be in that silence for longer than 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. So I guess that's why this section struck me. So anyways, 27:29, it says, quote, "The habitual difficulty in prayer is distraction. It can affect words and their meaning in vocal prayer. It can concern more profoundly him to whom we are praying in vocal prayer, liturgical or personal, meditation, and contemplative prayer. To set about hunting down distractions would be to fall into their trap. when all that is necessary is to turn back to our heart. For a distraction reveals to us what we are attached to. And this humble awareness before the Lord should awaken our preferential love for Him and lead us resolutely to offer Him our heart to be purified. Therein lies the battle, the choice of which master to serve. I'm going to pause there because that even makes me think of our anger episode. Remember that wolf reflection of like the two wolves inside? Which one are you going to serve? The choice is yours.
Yeah.
Who are you going to serve on the inside?
Yeah.
So rather than this discouragement from distraction, it's the catechism, the church is literally teaching us like, okay, what comes to mind that distracts you in prayer reveals to you your attachments. So to be vigilant is to not just be like, oh my gosh, I can never focus on the rosary. I can never focus on Jesus in adoration. Oh my gosh, I can't focus on what I'm reading. It's like, well, what the heck is coming to your mind? Is it like, I just want to check my phone? Or, oh, this person, or oh, this drama, or oh, that
it's my day of work that looks stressful ahead.
Or, oh my gosh, I just have this big to-do list when I get home. What is the thing that's coming to your mind?
The conversation that you're dreading to have with somebody.
Yeah, or it's like the thing that you desire in your heart has been longing for. Like, you're like trying to be like, Lord, I love you so much. And then you're just like, but why am I not married yet? Like, why am I not in a relationship yet? Or why doesn't this guy like me? Well, this is the attachment. It's revealing to you your heart. Like, what are you attached to? What is the thing stopping you from growing closer to the Lord?
Yeah.
There's a disorder there. And so what the battle is not falling into the trap of trying to, it says, hunt down this distraction. It's not like, oh, just get rid of it. Just get rid of it. What's the virtue, first of all, that's going to help you conquer it? But also, just turn back to the Lord. Like, okay, back to Jesus, back to Jesus, back to Jesus. One of the greatest things my mom ever taught us, and actually I think Katie mentioned this in our pilgrimage episode, when we're in adoration, if we're struggling to focus or we're struggling to like stay focused, it's just, and you don't know what to say, it's just, Jesus, I love you. Jesus, I trust in you. Or just repeat his name, simply. And that was just very helpful to being like, okay, bringing you back. Why are you here? It's not about the distraction.
Yeah. It's
not about that. Because if you're going to the distraction, you're going to just keep going with it. It's like, no, right. It's Jesus, right? So it says, to set about hunting down distractions would be to fall into their trap, when all that is necessary is to turn back to our heart. For a distraction reveals to us what we are attached to. And this humble awareness before the Lord should awaken our love for him. So, being vigilant is, shoot, here's the thing I'm attached to. I need to work on this. But right now I'm here present with the Lord.
I think you could also take some of that of like, okay, the ending of that sentence after this should awaken our love for him. It says, and then to resolutely offer him our hearts to be purified. So it could be those are the things that you're filling your heart with.
Mm-hmm.
So offer those to him to purify your like desire in those. I don't know, just purify it. Like,
Lord, I give you this desire
over to him. I give you this distraction to take control of that in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I give you this area that I'm being distracted by. Take that and purify this this thing.
This all-consuming thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's great.
So it's like not just, okay, obviously bring the mind back to Jesus,
for sure.
But like bring that to Jesus rather than letting it block you from him.
Absolutely. So it's being vigilant to not let that be like consuming. Yes, give it to the Lord and then
go back to him
with it. Let him purify it, but then be back with him.
Yeah.
And surrender that to him. Yeah. So the next paragraph is 2730, and it says, quote, in positive terms, the battle against the possessive and dominating self requires vigilance, sobriety of heart. When Jesus insists on vigilance, he always relates it to himself, to his coming on the last day and every day, today. The bridegroom comes in the middle of the night. The light that must not be extinguished is that of faith. Quote, come, my heart says, seek his face, end quote. Just stopping again at this paragraph. I mean, it's what we've already hit on, right? He's coming like a thief in the night.
Mm-hmm.
He comes in the middle of the night. We must not extinguish our faith. This is where I think it's a call to urgency of acting in our faith.
Mm-hmm.
We should, when you have conversion, you're full of this like zeal and everyone's got to know the love of Jesus. Everyone's got to know this Catholic faith. Everyone's got to know. And then we lose that.
Yeah.
But it's like we're called to have that all the way through, that like urgency of know this thing. Be ready.
Mm-hmm.
Be awake. He's coming. We don't know when, but he's coming.
Yeah.
Just always be ready. It's like a surprise party. Yeah. You just have to be ready to yell surprise whenever they're going to walk through the door, and you never know. And then you accidentally say it to the wrong person, and then you got to go back to your hiding spot.
Don't be discouraged by the person that you say it wrongly to.
Yeah. You just
that was not intended for them.
We're in a constant state of being ready for a surprise party. One's coming. You have to be that ready the whole time. With the same
same enthusiasm all the way through. Doesn't matter how many times you accidentally say it.
Yep. You always have to be ready.
Oh, I just want to go back. It's when Jesus insists on vigilance, he always relates it to himself, to his coming on the last day, and every day today. So we might not know when he's coming, but it's to be vigilant every day and today.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Anyway, okay. Is that all your thoughts for that one?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So then 2731 says, quote, another difficulty, especially for those who sincerely want to pray, is dryness. Dryness belongs to contemplative prayer. When the heart is separated from God, with no taste for thoughts, memories, and feelings, even spiritual ones, this is the moment of sheer faith clinging faithfully to Jesus in his agony and in his tomb. Quote, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains alone, but if it dies, it bears much fruit. End quote. If dryness is due to the lack of roots, because the word has fallen on rocky soil, the battle requires conversion. End quote.
Okay, I feel like what we could tie that to, unless the grain of wheat falls into the earth and it dies, it remains alone.
Mm-hmm.
But if it dies, it bears much fruit. But it says, if the dryness is due to the lack of roots, because the word has fallen on rocky soil, the battle requires conversion. So I feel like tying that back to the very initial thing that I talked about. The seed can be sown into good, fertile soil.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like maybe you've had your conversion. Maybe you've gone through what you think of, like, you know, you plant your seeds to the rocky soil. You fall on concrete. You plant it into the weeds. You plant it wherever. You know, like the whole like parable of like,
mm-hmm.
you know, if it's planted on like not good soil, it grows, but it dies.
Mm-hmm.
You plant it in the weeds, it gets choked out.
Yeah.
Whatever the situation is. Maybe you have good soil. You think you've gone through it all. You think you've had the conversion. That's where I feel like it just can go back to the being vigilant and weeding out your soil.
Mm-hmm.
Tending the soil. Whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think you just kind of tie that all back to that.
Yeah.
You might think you have good soil, but maybe you don't.
Mm-hmm.
You've been raised in a good Catholic family. You've stuck to your faith your whole life. The weeds can still be brought in.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, it's like, oh, I'm such a devout Catholic, but are you super critical? Because the Lord calls you to compassion.
Yeah, what kind of weeds are being
and to love
sown into your...
Yeah, it's true. Vigilance in words. I feel like this is very similar to, like, prudence.
Oh, I know. Okay, so, yes, prudence. But, okay, so there's this part in the spiritual survival in the modern world, and they're talking about this, like, I'll just kind of read this. So, in civilized life, domestic hatred usually expresses itself by saying things which would appear quite harmless on paper. But in such a voice or at such a moment, they are not far short from a blow to the face. So to keep this game up, The mother's demon in this story must see that each of these two fools have a sort of double standard. Your patient, so like one of the demon's patients, must demand all that his own utterances are to be taken at their face value and judged simply on the actual words, while at the same time judging all of his mother's utterances with the fullest and most oversensitive interpretation of the tone and context in the suspected intention. So, like, you know, one person's like, well, I'm not even saying harmful things. The other person is thinking, this person is trying so hard to be malicious towards me. Anyways, these temptations that can happen between people in the home or whatever, what they're saying is, you know, it kind of continues on, that these types of conversations lead to those sarcastic comments and, you know, maybe initially you're not trying to be harmful with your words, but eventually it becomes this sarcasm and whatever, kind of like what we were talking about earlier. Oh, well, I'm just joking. This is my sense of humor. But the sarcasm could become
And
mean.
It doesn't mean that your joke isn't insensitive.
Right.
Even if somebody is sensitive, then you need to be sensitive to their sensitivity.
Right. So, anyways, continuing after that kind of stuff, there's like this step towards solution, is that when you're in these types of cycles, the harmful or sarcastic things, or, you know, maybe you do have a person in your life, or spouse or partner, roommate, sibling, parent, whatever, that you get into these cycles of like word battles, or like not even trying to be a battle, but you just can't seem to break the sarcasm or comments or
like zingers.
Yeah, or like, you know, passive aggressive things. The way to break the cycle is to not even let it start, or to have the strength to stop it once it does start. So, like, I feel like in the sense that's where you need to become vigilant. Like, if you notice it, you can tell this type of a conversation is going to happen. Don't even let it start. You're being vigilant by even being watchful at, like, I think we're about to start getting sarcastic with each other, or
okay, we're about to go down the road of gossip.
Yeah, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
It's like, be vigilant so that it doesn't even start, or have the strength to stop it once it does start. Don't let that emotion win.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel the way that thought and word connect well together, because it's just that, like, you need to be aware of your thoughts in general. And so to be aware of your thoughts is to be aware of then what words proceed to come out of your mouth. Right?
Yeah.
You have the thought. Like, just because the thought might be true does not mean it needs to be said.
Yeah. I mean, you could also even, like, start perceiving it as, like, okay, you know, around these specific people, you start swearing more. You make the bad jokes more often. Gossiping tends more often. You know, every time you're with this person, you talk about that person. Stop it. Don't let the conversation come up. You know, every time you're with that person, dirty jokes get brought up. Something like that. Either don't let them get brought up, or be like, you know what? No. Or change the subject. But it's again, doing those daily examinations of, I gossiped. Okay, who did I gossip about and who was I with? Does this happen often with that person? Type of a thing.
Yeah, it's just more or less, yeah, like, not every thought has to be said. Even if it's a true thought. Because if it's a true thought that is just rude, now you are just falling to the vice of being mean rather than being kind and compassionate and gentle. Because you could say potentially the same thing that you are saying, even if you're saying it in a harsh way. You could say it in a kinder way, right? Like, if you're asking someone to tell you the areas of your life that you need work on, right? And I did that, and they were very compassionate towards me. They could have done it in a very mean way. But the words that they used, the tone that they used, and the way that they talked to me about it was just very compassionate. And so even if you have something that could be said, it's being vigilant to know what is your emotion behind it in this moment, because you could say that same thing tomorrow when you're not angry and it go 1,000 times better than you just lashing out.
Mm-hmm.
So having that control over your emotion and your heart, right? That's the custody of your heart.
Yeah.
Having custody over your heart is more than just, it's all those things combined.
Control of the emotion that drives the words.
Yeah. So it's custody of heart, having custody over your thoughts, emotions, in your words and your deeds. So your actions, which is the last point of this conversation. So deeds are your actions. So to be vigilant over your actions. Going off a very basic point, where are you falling? Obviously.
Yeah.
Are you drunkenness, masturbation, bulimic, self-harm, pornography, gluttony, super lazy, like sloth.
Yeah, it could be like the way you dress.
Yeah, and being immodest.
The way you carry yourself.
It could even be, do you even keep holy the Sabbath day? Are you working every Sunday? Yeah. Do you even give yourself that day of rest? Like, those are all action things that are very obvious to be like, I would argue that that's pretty easy to be like, yeah, I need to stop doing that. Mm-hmm. So going into it a little bit deeper, vigilance in action is vigilance in your actions in little things, in little ways, towards your spouse, towards your kids, towards your in-laws, your parents, your friends, your enemies. That vigilance in relationship. And that's even comparable to the sarcasm, right? Mm-hmm. It's that action, the body language you use, the eye rolling you use, the passive aggressiveness, the slamming of cupboards, not using your words to like say what's going on, but using action to be passive aggressive and rude and whatever.
Yeah.
Realizing like, when you walk through the door, are you treating the people in your own home worse than you treat everyone else in the world? Because the people in your own home, they're the ones that you come home and you can be yourself with, but that doesn't mean that they deserve the worst version of you. Yeah. And you should be vigilant in your action towards those people, because they're actually the last people that deserve that from you.
Yeah. Something that I was reading along those lines too is, why is it so much easier to put your best foot forward when you're at work or out in public? And it's like, part of it's almost kind of like, because there's eyes on you, to where people don't know your life at home.
There's not an unconditional love.
Right, exactly.
You're held to a standard.
Yeah. When you're out and about, you are held to the standard. What you do in public, you'll be rewarded for. Or like the praise that you desire out in public, you'll be rewarded for. But what you do in private, like, I will reward you. So when you're at home in the private, doing the vigilant actions and like loving with great love in the privacy of your own home, is kind of like the same thing of like, when you pray in private, I will reward you. Like God says, like, I will reward you.
Yeah, who you are in private is who you should be elsewhere.
But like, if you're at home and you're the worst version of yourself, this is what we're saying, is like, be vigilant. Don't be the worst version of yourself.
Well, yeah. So who you are in private is who you should be elsewhere. Yeah. That is being a person of integrity.
Yeah.
Integrity is being the person who follows through on their word and their action, and that they're trustworthy and they're honest. Mm-hmm. And to be those things is to be a person of integrity, and to be a person of integrity, I think, would require you to be a vigilant person.
Yeah.
To be able to recognize, like, my actions do not match who I perceive myself to be.
Yeah.
At school, or at church, or at the grocery store, at work.
Yeah.
With my friend over around my kids, and they leave and I'm like, to the kids. They should always, like, I think it's one of the biggest compliments that you could get is for somebody to be like, wow, you're just always the same.
Yeah.
No matter where you are. Like, you are who you perceive yourself to be at work, in social life, in family life, in whatever.
Yeah.
You are very consistent.
Yeah.
I think that is very telling to the integrity and the vigilance of a person.
Yeah.
Rather than coming home and just letting all of your emotion and anger come out.
Yeah.
Sometimes hanger.
For sure. Don't let your hanger get to you.
No, just eat a snack. It's okay.
It'll be all right.
Yeah.
But don't eat your emotions. That can be gluttonous.
If fasting makes you hangry and you're just a jerk to everyone, stop fasting, please. Or fast in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be hangry.
Yeah.
So funny. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like that sums up my thoughts on action, indeed. But I'm losing steam.
Yeah.
You?
No, I think we could be good.
All right, examination time.
Yeah, examination. There you go. Okay.
So tonight's examination is going to be a little bit shorter, only because vigilance requires your own self-examination through all of these categories and things. So we came up with some pretty basic ones that you could totally
elaborate more
on for yourself. So Jordan will start us.
Okay. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Come, Holy Spirit, enlighten my mind, that I may see clearly all of my sins. Let me not be deceived by self-love, but show me the true state of my conscience. What am I consuming in media? Is it good for me? Is it affecting my vocation? For prayer life, what are the distractions that come up when I pray? In words, am I sarcastic and passive-aggressive? Am I rude or brutally honest? Or am I too passive? Do I gossip? Do I feel the fire or have strength to put it out? With thoughts, do my thoughts lead me to be more critical or more compassionate? Do I continue with thoughts of fear, resentment, lust, criticism, hatred, or obsession and jealousy? Indeed, do I act out of passive aggressiveness or being rude? Am I ignoring obvious sinful actions? Do I honor the Lord's day or do I justify work? And just in daily life, do I busy myself with work and other distractions and ignore the real problems at hand?
And I think something to keep in mind with all of these questions, if you're saying yes to any of them, it's then not just yes and there. Why? Why are you passive aggressive? Why are you sarcastic? Why are you not honoring the Lord's day? Why are you busying yourself with work? Why are you doing any of these actions, thoughts, like entertaining the thought? Why are you saying the words that you're saying when they're rude or unkind or just like uncharitable? It's the why to the yes that you need to reflect on to dive into the more.
It's what's driving these things to happen. What's driving you to these sinful actions and things.
Yeah. And that's where you'll find yourself being vigilant to finding the root. So anyway, as we say, oh my God, I am heartily sorry for having offended you, and I detest all of my sins because of your just punishments, but most of all because they have offended you, my God, who are all good and deserving of all my love. I firmly resolve with the help of thy grace to confess my sins, to do penance, and to amend my life. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode on the forgotten virtue of vigilance.
Yes.
Be ready. It's a surprise party. Jesus might be coming at any moment.
Any moment.
Surprise! He's here! Just kidding. Ha. Okay. Bye.
Right, bye. Thanks for listening to the Wannabe Saints podcast.
If you have a question or topic you would like us to cover, reach out to us at wannabesaintspodcast@gmail.com or on Instagram at wannabe_saints.
You can find the link in our show notes. Thanks for listening, and God bless.